Hey, listeners, welcome back to the podcast. I'm very excited to bring my special guest, Aycee Brown, here today. I had the pleasure to discover Aycee about a week ago when she was doing Instagram Live on the Check Your Privilege account. And it was human design for your activism. And I haven't even said this to you yet, Aycee. I was listening, and it's like, one of those things you kind of check your Instagram when you're like doing other things. And my kids around. I had my earbuds in, I had like my phone in my pocket, and I kept putting it out and like propping up. I'm grilling like food. Like I'm literally doing everything. I can't stop watching you because you blew me away. And I don't know a lot about human design. So this conversation, we're going to talk about what is human design. We'll break it down a bit. But your energy, your heart, just everything about you just like pulled me in. And when I reached out to you, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're amazing. This is blowing my mind. How could I work with you? And then you said, well, I have your card deck. I know you were. I'm like, what? It was like this celebrity. I'm like, she knows who I am. Like I was just like full on like taken aback. I think I blushed. I was like, oh my gosh, she knows who I am. So I'm really excited to have you here. Your work is so powerful. And the more I learn about you, the more I want to share you with my audience, with my groups. But before we get into today's podcast, I would love to just start from the top and, warmly welcome you here. And just, I would love for you to share a bit about, your story, how you got to where you are, and being the founder of Goodnight Darling Co. and the podcast creator from Is My Aura on Straight? So let's just start from the top. Welcome, Aycee.
Thank you for having me. I'm so you said celebrity. I was like, oh my gosh, thank you. That makes me feel like I'm like, yeah, of course I have your card deck. Your card deck is amazing. So I'm Aycee Brown, and I'm a psychic channel. I'm a spiritual guide, and I'm also an entrepreneur. I've been doing this work for years, and I don't want to say years like I've been doing this work outwardly for years, but I've been psychic for my whole life. Just little things. My grandmother discovered it and I hid from it. How I came with the concept of Goodnight Darling actually stemmed from I had astral projected for the first time when I was 15. Okay. And it scared the entire shit out of me. I don't know if we can curse here.
It's okay. It's all right. Okay. It's all right.
And I guess at that, when I was doing it, it was the moment like where I guess you are coming back into your body, and I just saw like a black cloud over me, which I know from that was me, and I literally couldn't move because I was, I guess, trying to come back in. Wow. And I was screaming at the top of my lungs. I never forget this, and nothing was coming out. And then finally I was like, and then I took this big deep breath, and then I was back. And wow, that scared the shit out of me. And so I started taking Benadryl and over-the-counter sleep medicine so I can just go to sleep. Yeah. Because I also am a dreamer, and I used to have very strong, vivid, recurring dreams. That's one of the reasons how my grandmother really knew that I was psychic, because I would have dreams. It's funny, she would make me breakfast and we would talk about my dreams, because that's how detailed, and that's how I would have premonitions through them. And yeah. So I started taking over-the-counter sleep medicine to go to sleep. And then by the time I got to college, I was on like 2.5, almost 3, like Tylenol PM, Advil PMs a night. And so I literally got addicted to over-the-counter sleep medications. And then I went through a depression period, and then my therapist, my psychiatrist gave me the old school sleep medications to help me sleep. And that was like, oh, this is great. And so one day my mom had a conversation with me. She pretty much had an intervention. She was like, listen, you're going to kill your liver. Like, you got to stop. And so I was just like, okay. And so I started researching different herbal remedies. My grandmother also had herbal remedies that I had from her and her old like recipe books and stuff. And then I created teas and tinctures, and I took a fragrance blending class, all of that to help myself. And then years later, I was going through a breakup and I was having trouble sleeping again. And then I was just like, oh man, I wonder if there's a company with, the things that I want to do. And of course I was online, there was nothing. So I went at 3:00 in the morning, I brought the domain name, and then 6 months later I launched.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah, and then it was just that
A true
way.
entrepreneur. Like, is there something out there? I'll create it.
Right. And so
amazing.
That's what happened with that. But as far as the, psychic channeling and spiritual guide, I'm a certified life coach. I did that years ago. I don't even know how many years. That was 2000 something. Jeez. But that was a long time. And then, but how I ended up with human design is a funny story because I'm a risk taker. So I've tried so many things, and at the time I was doing a photography business, and I was doing an internship at a commercial photographer in the area where I live now. And the makeup artist, she was like a yogi. She was just vegan, and she was just all like, like, oh my gosh, I just did a 30-day yogi, like, commitment or whatever the hell. And she was just like, I found out I'm a manifesting generator. You got to get into this thing called human design. And I was just like, well, what is it? And she was just telling me, and she was like, I was just like listening to all of the aura types. And I was like, yeah, I'm a manifester. I know I am. Cause I was just like, I'm a manifester. I manifest things, cause it was all like law of attraction, Abraham Hicks, The Secret, all of that stuff. And I was like, no, I am a manifester. And then I went and I, put my information in, and then was like, you're a projector. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like, what do you mean I'm a projector? This doesn't even make any sense. Like, why would I need to wait for an invitation or wait for recognition? Like, how dare this thing is wrong. Like, I manifest, I make things happen. So I had a reading from someone who became a mentor of mine, and I was just like in tears, like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. This is my entire life. And so I just started going back and looking back at just different situations and different things, and like, oh my God, yeah, that was an invitation. That's when I got recognized. Yep, that makes sense. All of that stuff. And a friend of mine, she had found out hers, and she was doing life coaching. She's like, we should do a human design life coaching thing. And I was like, okay. So we brought all these courses, all these trainings, spent thousands of dollars. And then we started learning and doing stuff. And then she was like, you know what? I don't want to do this. I was just like, okay, we just spent all this money. We did all this stuff. She was like, I don't want to do it. And I was just like, okay. And so I was like, well, I don't want to do it by myself. And so I didn't, but what I did was I kept studying and I kept learning, and I kept really trying to implement it in my life and really live my design in my life. And then as time went on, and when I was coaching, I was like, oh, I should see what your aura type is. And then I started doing it for more friends, more family. And then when I was in the workplace in corporate America, I started doing it like with my boss and like with coworkers and stuff like that. And then, it just spiraled, just building it. And then I was just finally like, okay, I'm just going to do it on the internet, because I was so afraid. I was like, I'm going to do it on the internet. And so I started doing on that. And then years later, here I am.
Wow. Well, I can see how learning it and wanting to use it for your coaching client all makes sense. And that natural progression is like people who you work with start to go, oh, well, I want you to do me. Everybody wants to know. I mean, anybody who reads cards, if you pull a card for somebody on the internet, everyone's like, ooh, my turn.
Right. My turn. Send me a card. Right.
They love it. I've coached so many people. I'm like, if you will read cards, like just start your online business, just start doing that. You will gain traction. People want it. You're giving them something. But I also love how the more that you learned about human design, starting to integrate it with your life, the more you really saw all the facets of it and can really use it. And I'm so excited. I haven't received it yet, but on Sunday we get to do a reading together.
To talk. Yes.
Oh, I'm so excited. This is like, let's make it about me. I want to know what my human, like, she's like, what's your human design type? I'm like, I'm a manifesting generator. She's like, oh, okay. And like, I don't even know what that means. So,
Well, we can break it down what they are because, people are going to be curious. So there's 5 aura types, and so there's technically 4, but they break down manifesting generators and generators in the same kind of bucket because they have the generator part. So manifesting generators and generators are the biggest population in the world. So it's about 35% each. So
wow.
manifesting generators you're both here to master stuff. So that's clear. But generators are here to master things over time. Manifesting generators are here to find the fastest way to mastery. And so what manifesting generators are sometimes all over the place. If you listen to my podcast, I break down each of the
I
aura
did.
types.
I did. I listened to your episode and I was kind of giggling to myself because I was like, nail on the head. Like, exactly. And that's why I giggled. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is too funny. So,
Yeah.
so are you saying 35% each of this or 30?
Yes.
Oh my
35
gosh.
each. Yeah. So generator population is 70% of the
Wow.
world
Wow.
because you're here to build the infrastructure. You're here to find the right work, find the right family, find the right relationships. So you're here to be you're the worker bees of society. So that's how I like to say. So generators, but they're here for mastery over time.
Mm.
Um, and that's Oprah Winfrey's a generator, Beyonce's a generator, Celine Dion, they're generators. So if you look at their careers, they've mastered them over time.
Yeah.
And then when you look at manifesting generators find the quickest way to mastery. So that's Rihanna, Bethany Frankel, Jennifer Lopez. As you can see, they have more multifaceted careers, and they have their hands in a few things.
For sure.
But I always tell manifesting generators, so you don't get off track or you don't feel like you're going in circles, to keep it all in the same wheelhouse.
Yeah.
If you're going to, do multiple things, make sure they all fit together. Don't have things scattered all over the place.
Yeah.
And then you have projectors. Projectors make 22% of the population. I'm a projector. Barack Obama's a projector. Cardi B, everybody knows who Cardi B is. She's a projector. Jada Pinkett is a projector. Who else is a projector? It's Princess Diana is a projector. And so and I look at that because projectors, we're here to be recognized and we're here to be invited. So if you look at, let's say, Princess Diana, she was invited into the royal family. She was chosen, Barack Obama, he was chosen by the American people. If you look at Cardi B, she, she's a rap star, but she also was recognized and chosen from reality TV. So that kind of thing. And then Jada Pinkett, I always say, Will Smith chose her to be, the right hand kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so that's a good example.
Yeah. I think her work is a little bit overshadowing some of his at the moment, but
right now, right
now.
But if you look at her, there was a point in her, because she does the Red Table Talk.
Yeah.
And so even Will was on an episode and he said, I've always wanted this for you. And so if you look at that as a projector, she was invited to do that. She was sort of recognized and chosen to do that. So that's why it works for her.
Yes.
So it's almost like projectors have the hardest, and I hate to say that, but it's almost like we are, Serena Williams, she's a projector. She was working, her father was training them, and then she got recognition. Now, she's the top female tennis player in the world. So it's almost like projectors work, and then they get recognized, and then boom. So almost sort of like what happened to me in the last week.
No shit. I was just going to say, I'm like, this is literally what's happening right now for you. So, but like, let's just be honest. Is that a little bit frustrating and annoying at times where you're like, I'm working my ass off. Why isn't anybody seeing what I'm doing?
Yes and no.
Okay.
No, because I trust spirit.
Yeah.
And so even if you asked me a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago of everything that is happening, I would have said, "Oh, let me wait, you know, another 2 months or something like that," because it's not necessarily that you're not ready or that I wasn't ready. It was just more of you always have an idea or a concept on your mind of what it's going to look like when it happens,
Mm.
or where you're going to be when it happens, or the
Mm.
goals that you want to accomplish or attain when it happens. And so
Mm.
that part was the unexpected part, because I didn't
Yes.
expect it happening now, right where I am, but it did.
Right.
So
And so before we hit record, we were talking about clairaudient. And so here's something I'm hearing right now, because I'm also seeing some of your products. So part of what I'm hearing is guides want you to talk about, not sitting here waiting for somebody to invite you, but actually still taking action. You created a line of products. Someone invited you to create a line of products. You weren't just sitting there waiting for something to happen to you. You're also creating an active. And we have a puppy guest, by the way.
right. So my the invitation was my own. So I
Yeah.
always tell projectors that the invitation sometimes starts with you.
Mm.
So when you get that invitation, then you can move forward, and then it will happen. It will all go together, if that makes any
Mm.
sense. I can't
Mm-hmm.
explain it, because it's like, oh, I've been almost working all my life for what's happening, and I know it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger from now, but it's just you just don't expect when it's going to, the how is kind of like, oh, this is what it was going to do. Oh, okay, cool. Like it's just kind of weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've got generators, manifesting generators, projectors.
And then next are manifestors. So
Okay.
manifestors are they're 8% of the population. And these numbers, I don't know if anybody's done a study yet, but I know that they're switching, they're changing. Um, and I had talked about this with a couple of like human design colleagues, that there's going to be more projectors, more manifestors, more reflectors, I think, as time goes on,
Hmm.
because of the consciousness of everyone, and how the uh, projectors, manifestors, and reflectors are non-sacral energy. So we don't have the go. We can't do all the things. So it's
Mm.
very energy centered. So manifestors are 8% of the population as of today. And
Mm-hmm.
manifestors are the only auras in human design that can just do stuff. So Maya Angelou is a manifester. J.K. Rowling are manifestors. Ian Van Zant. And I use those examples because they're all writers. And
Mm.
so manifestors make very good writers, because their energy is technically repelling, if you look in the human design stuff, because they're the only aura type that can just do. They don't have to wait to respond to invitations, nothing. They can just do it. They are the epitome of the Nike emblem. Just do it. They can say what they want to say, but the problem is because the society that we live in, people don't like that. So they don't,
Yeah.
they take it like, whoa, that's a lot, when
Huh.
you have that energy where you just do stuff and you just can just do whatever you want. But writing for manifestors helps them get out what they want to say,
Mm.
and get out how they want to, what's on their mind, how they see the world.
Mm.
So that's, for manifestors. And then you have reflectors. They're 2% of the population. And Sandra Bullock is a reflector. And I think Scott Hamill, the skater Scott Hamill is a, and also too, and I always bring her up. A lot of people don't know who she is, or they might, but Teal Swan. Um,
Oh, so I just found out about her.
yeah,
I didn't mean to sigh, but
yeah, Teal Swan. Teal Swan is a reflector, and so reflectors are here to reflect, what's happening in, what's going on. So yes.
can I go back to manifestors for a second?
Yeah.
Because you said they're like, just do it, like Nike. And does that mean they like give no fucks? Like, or were they born without that? Like needing.
It depends on how they were raised. Manifestors probably, I would say, suffer the most as they grow with the biggest, they have to do the biggest deconditioning because society doesn't allow manifestor children to really be manifestor children. So a manifestor child will want to start playing the trumpet on Tuesday. And then on Friday, they're like, you know what? I want to play the piano.
Okay.
I'm over it. And
Okay.
so that's not, they are here to initiate creative flow. So they just start stuff. And so, as you know, you can't just start things, in society, and generators are like, no, you have to finish it. You have to continue. You have to, and manifestors like, no, that's not, I just want to start stuff. So manifestor children, I feel, get conditioned the most.
Okay.
And so when they find out that they're manifesting and they find out, wait, I'm supposed to speak, I'm supposed to say what's on my mind, I'm supposed to not give any fucks, that's hard for them to transition into that.
Wow.
That's they struggle the most.
Wow. Do you feel like that is common, that they are like more outwardly wanting to do different things as kids and they kind of get conditioned to stop doing that, and then they have to relearn how to kind of get back out a little bit?
I mean, that sucks.
Yeah.
For them, because that's hard. I mean, I think hopefully anybody's listening who's pulling their child's chart and has a manifestor, that they, will know, hey, let me make sure that I'm, honoring my child's creative cycles and these creative spurts. So as they get older, they don't have to do so much deconditioning and so many, like, just trying to, like, figure it out. It's very hard.
Yeah. So where can people find their charts? Do you have a place on your website that people can get their
No,
chart?
I don't have a place on my website. You can go to either Jovian Archive, get your chart, or mybodygraph.com and get your chart.
Okay.
And
We'll
that
put that
has
in the show notes.
information. Yeah.
Okay.
But you definitely need your birth time because, I like to say, my analogy is, and I always say this, because everybody's built something from IKEA, so this is like the easiest analogy. If your natal chart for astrology is a finished IKEA bookcase or desk or whatever you built from IKEA, human design is that instruction booklet on how to build it. Wow. So your natal chart is the woulda, shoulda, couldas. This is what you should be. This is what you can be. This is what you might grow into. Human design are the instructions on how to get there. So they help you make decisions to fulfill your natal chart, pretty much.
Wow.
And so that's how they work together.
So then, I mean, it clearly makes sense why you specifically work with more entrepreneurs, thought leaders, visionaries, all the leaders, because they're like, they're doing the inner work. They're really wanting to dial it in for this life.
Yeah. And I mean, everybody should want to, regardless.
I think so too.
Right. Regardless if you are working a 9-to-5 or, I always tell people, because I know I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I was born one. I just happened to be born into a family where we have a lot of entrepreneurs. My dad's an entrepreneur. So it helped me. But everyone doesn't want to be an entrepreneur. It's stressful. It's, you can make great money in your career. And so human design, what that helps for people on the career track, in a 9-to-5, or trying to reach the executive ranks within their company, it helps them navigate and make decisions in how to deal with people and how, and when I was in corporate, what human design for me, it helps me set boundaries with people. And also I was able to communicate my boundaries and expectations with my boss, with people who worked under me, all of that stuff, because I know how I make decisions, how I work, how I function. I did a lot of corporate sales stuff. So I would, if I had a manifesting generator boss, I'm like, listen, I'm not going to be out here like you are. I'm not going to be super fast. I'm not going to be doing all the things. My selling style is going to be more relationship style. You're going to have to accept that. I understand we have goals and all of that stuff. if you need to write me up, that's fine. It'll all make sense at the end of the quarter. But I'm not gonna burn myself out
Yes.
because of how you work. And
Yeah.
so that's why, I would, for me, I would love to help more people in the corporate arena space with human
Yeah.
design, because it helps. You can build your teams better. You can assign people tasks, and what their role can be. So there's
Mm,
not these crazy expectations, because what's going to happen after COVID, all this stuff that's going on, people are not going to want to work places where they hate it anymore.
I
They're going to be
agree.
like, well, shoot, I'll figure it out. You know what I mean? Because I mean, like I said, you don't have to be an entrepreneur to be super successful. But if you're going to work in a corporation and climb the ranks, you want to be happy doing it. You want to feel good doing it. And so
Mm,
human design can help with that.
for sure. And I'm hearing you say this. I'm like, how powerful would it be if, even if you're working in corporation or you're an entrepreneur, having the people on your team that you're working closely with, knowing their human design type so that you can work together more
It's
smoothly.
so important. I would love to just work with executives, people who are, you know, who are in the corporate arenas, who have teams, who are supervisors, who are department heads, because it
Mm,
even helps with hiring. You know what I
mm,
mean? So,
yeah.
and I've done that for friends who have small businesses when they are, looking for uh, virtual assistants and things like that. They, I offer a service where I do that, where they send me their charts and I give them a breakdown, and see how it will work and all of
Wow.
that stuff, because it's really helpful.
Yeah. Well, I know I have a very small and mighty team, but we have had everybody who's applied and been hired. We've known their Myers-Briggs type, as well as their disc profile. And it seems like this is that next elevated step to really understand them on a deeper level, to get their human design type. So on one of your podcasts, I heard you were talking about like the sales team and sort of if there was a competition over the year. I would
Right.
love for
Yes.
you. That was so genius. So would you share that analogy?
Sure. No, it's fine. That's so I always tell people the way that if I wish people could see my brain, the way it thinks. I am so there's something in my natal chart I forgot, or how the things are, but I have a way of making completely opposite ideas make sense for people. I know that that's a gift of mine. So that's where my analogies come. But the sales team analogy, when it comes to a generator and a manifesting generator, are so you think about, you have a sales team and you have sales goals for the year. Now, from the onset, everybody starts at the same place at zero. You got the generator, you have the manifesting generator. And then what will happen normally, and this is why I always tell manifesting generators to slow down, but they don't. What will happen is the manifesting generator will be moving so fast. They'll be starting to sell. They'll be hitting their numbers quicker, all of that stuff, and just like, oh, I'm selling, I'm doing this, I've sold 20 cars in a month, I've meet my goals. And then the generator is just like, okay, I sold 5 first month, second month I maybe sold 10. And then what the generator does, and what makes the generator is the generator is always tweaking his process going along. And so it looks like they're starting off slow. It looks like they're selling slow. Oh, he only sold 5 cars this month. Next month he was 6. What the generator is doing is seeing like, okay, how can I improve this sales tactic for selling this car? How can I sell better? Am I following up? They're thinking about all of that stuff. The manifesting generator is like, oh, let me sell these cars. Let me get these numbers. That's that. And then let's say it's third quarter. And then all of a sudden, third quarter happens. The generator has perfected his sales pitch. He's perfected the way he's selling. He's on the roll. A manifesting generator, third quarter is stuck. And that is only because they've moved so fast that they probably have to going back. They probably have people returning cars. They probably have people not happy. All of these things because they've been moving so fast that they didn't slow down enough to see how they were selling, see what the process was, see if their people like stuff. They were just worried about the numbers. And so I always say, if you had a race between a manifesting generator and a generator is going to win automatically over time, because that's what mastery for them is. It's over time. Manifesting generators are finding shortcuts to mastery, but what they're not doing along that shortcuts are tweaking and perfecting. They're just getting things done. And so therefore, lots of mistakes happen.
Yeah.
Lots of mistakes happen. And then their third quarter, and then they're stuck because now they're having all these chargebacks. People are coming in returning cars. And then the generator's like, I know my customer. I know how to sell to them. And then the manifesting generator is like, shit, now I have to like try and rush and make up the difference. So that's a little gist of how I talked about it, but you can look.
Yeah, I really loved it because it paints such a clear picture, and it really gives you an idea of the breakdown over time. And of course, I can resonate with what I've done in my own life and my own business with, you know, when I first got online and things were starting to move, I was selling 1,000 different things. Like every month I had something different I was selling. And it was because I was first not being very discerning. When spirit gave me messages like, got it, go. And I would just do whatever came to me. And till I was like, okay, spirit, like you don't have time and space, but I do. So I'm going to need a minute. Like, can I just put this together over time? Okay, thanks. And to kind of slow down. But that it literally describes my first year in online business is like, and then I had to slow down so much. And having a team and having the right team who can like literally slow me down and just be like, let's just focus. And even this year, 2020, I mean, we planned it back in October or November, was to focus on 3 things in my business, and everything else would just like gonna kind of mute for a moment. And because I can focus on those things, that is what's really helped.
Right.
Everybody, everything on my team. I'm helping more people because I'm doing less things. And so I completely can say like, yep, for sure. Exactly what you said.
Yeah, that's manifesting generators. So as long as you guys can focus and get clear about what you want, what that looks like, then you're fine. But you know, just try not to get distracted. That's the problem.
Yes. Yeah. So we kind of hop, skipped, and jumped over our reflectors. So I want to give them their due too, even though they're only 2%, but let's give them their due.
So reflectors are, I love reflectors. I have several reflector friends. They're very rare.
Okay.
But reflectors, they don't, when you look at their chart, they don't have any definition in the centers, like the little triangles and squares. They just have hanging gates. That's all they have. So reflectors, what they are, their purpose is to gauge the temperature of things. I always say reflectors are, they are like a walking company billboard. If you hire a reflector that likes their job, they're going to be the mascot for the company. They're going to show up to all the parties, to the meetings. They have they're just super duper company person or super duper advocates for whatever they're doing, especially when it feels good to them and they like working there because they gauge the temperature. So anytime something's going wrong in your business or your company, go ask a reflector and just ask them, hey, what do you think? Or especially in a corporate sector, what do you think? And they will tell you exactly what the hell is going on. No holds barred, because they feel it. The reflectors, their strategy is they have to, of course, wait a longer period of time to make decisions, a full moon cycle. However, that is because they need to go through each part of all of the gates to see how it feels, what feels on this day, how it feels on that day. A lot of my reflector friends, because they know me, they actually, they write down how they feel on certain days, on certain phases of the moon and things, because it really is important for them to gauge the temperature of their feelings. If a reflector is not happy at a job, it's for a reason. It's not because they hate the job. It's because the job probably sucks. like because the corporation sucks or whatever that is. And so reflectors are super important to society. They make great healers. They make great people who are able to care for someone else in a capacity and help them bring forth something. So doulas, even stylists. One of my friends is a stylist who's a reflector. She's so good at it. And it's just, they're really good at caring for others or for something or just being an advocate for them. So those are reflectors.
Yeah. Well, even just saying doula or a stylist or a healer, that puts a lot into perspective as well, of just understanding, that softness to them, and they're understanding, like, if they're feeling into cycles and they're feeling they wanted to support the causes that they love, a doula is like the epitome of that. If they're working with a client that they love, they're helping them to bring life into the world. Like that is like, oh my God, that is all love to be able to do that work. Yeah.
Yes. So that reflectors make those are, I mean, they can do anything else too. But like I said, for corporate stuff, if the company is great and the reflector likes it, oh my gosh, it's like a match made in heaven. They're going to be the person like on the company, like, videos, like, oh my God, I love it here. Because if they like it, they're going to just flourish. They're going to flourish in a company culture.
Love that. So, I mean, I guess this is a good place to have everybody sort of check in which one resonated with you. And if you haven't figured out what your human design type is, if you can have a guess. I mean, like Aycee was like, I'm going to guess that I'm a manifester, and then kind of got shifted around when she actually got a reading. But
don't guess. Don't guess, because you're gonna wind up disappointed, because I hear it all the time. I thought I was a projector. I'm not. I'm a generator. That doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm just like, it depends totally on a couple of other things too. So I get people who are always in my DMs like, I'm upset. I thought I was this. I'm just like, well, you're not. So get over it.
And it is really important, whether it's astrology or it's human design, to really know your birth time. Everything is so specific.
People who don't know their birth time, I'm like, I mean, except if they were like adopted or something like that, I'm just like, especially people who I always crack up as people who talk to their parents at least 3 times a week. I always joke and say, your parents don't love you because they don't know what time you were born. They're just like, why would you say that? I'm like, because, like, your parents should know what time you were born. And some people like, I'm the 5th child. My mom doesn't remember. I'm like, that's because she hates you. That's like, she doesn't remember because you were the last. She probably was just tired of having children. I always joke about that because it's so funny because I have a big family, but because my grandmother was into all of these things, my grandmother my grandmother was a healer, and she used to go to a retreat every year with I don't know if you're familiar with Eric Butterworth. He was the spiritual leader for Unity. And he has books out, and they have a podcast with all his old teachings. But my grandmother would go to a retreat, and doctors and nurses would always, because my grandmother owned a daycare, and she raised 3 generations of a neighborhood. And doctors would always seek her out, like, what do you think about antibiotics? How quick should we take them off of antibiotics and all of that stuff? And my grandmother would like break it down and all of those things. But where was I going with that? I forgot.
Your grandmother was a healer. That's kind of how it started.
But I was making a point and it totally slipped my mind. But I'll bring it all in. What I was going to say, I think, was something about with aura types and people just, they don't, you have to like accept your role and to know that, hey, this is what I am. And sometimes, sometimes you do have instances where you do feel like another aura type, and there can be indicators in your chart that might prompt that. So for
Mm.
instance, a generator who has a lot of open centers
Mm.
can sometimes feel like a projector or like
Mm.
a non-sacral energy kind of
Mm.
type.
Mm.
But they are generators, so they just have to figure out how to use that.
Hmm.
I
Was
don't
it
know.
now? Was it about birth times? Were we talking about birth
Yes, birth
times?
times. There you go. Yeah.
It just came to me. I was like, I wrote them like, was it birth time?
So the reason, so back to my grandmother. So so I have a big family. My grandmother was a healer, all of that stuff, and she worked with a lot of children, all my life. And so everybody knows their birth time. Like she used to write them down in the Bible. So her Bible, she used to write down everybody's. And I'm talking about second and third cousins. Like I remember her like on the phone in the 90s, like calling down south to like, when somebody was born, and she would be on the phone with one of her sisters, like, okay, what time, what's the name, what time were they born? And she was writing it down. And
Wow.
so when people say they don't know their birth time, I'm mind blown, because I don't have any other like way of living, but not everybody around me knowing my birth time. Like I can
Yeah.
call my mother right now. Everybody knows their birth time off the bat.
I love that. Well,
And so
your grandmother was also a very special human. I mean, that's not a typical thing that most people have records of. That's unbelievable. But also that shows like what a deep spiritual woman she is.
Yes.
Like so deep. Like
well, she was,
yeah.
she's passed on, but so that's why I was just like, when people don't know their birth time, I'm just like, how is that possible?
I talked to my mom a couple weeks ago, and she was asked, because my birthday is the end of June, the 28th.
Okay.
And she was like, how old are you going to be again? I'm like, Mom, you have 2 children. Like, get it together. You need to know this. And also I am positive, 100% positive that she would not know my birth time. And what's weird about that is that my birth was actually planned. So she had my older brother, she had him C-section, and then my birth was planned C-section. And so this is also really weird, maybe TMI, you guys, so whatever. When she planned my birth, she was working as a speech pathologist in Rose Hospital. I was born in Colorado. And at the time, there was a gentleman who was an acupuncturist who came in to teach doctors about acupuncture and the benefits of recovery. So she hooked up with this guy to plan my birth and to have no general anesthetic or spinal tap when she did her C-section with me.
Oh.
Okay. Right? Okay. So like, right?
Like,
weird. Like, this is the story of my bizarre birth. So she didn't have any local. She didn't have a spinal. She only had acupuncture. So my birth was planned, and she had no painkillers.
Wow. And she still doesn't remember your birth.
And does not.
She should definitely know the exact time.
Exactly.
They opened her up, when you got out, when they sewed her up, everything.
Play by play, minute by minute. Like
yes. She was like, at 12:34, they cut me open. At 12:35, they slept open that sack, and then all of the water came out. Like,
I know, right?
She should have a play by play. That's amazing though. Wow.
Weird. And it's so weird though, because I have yet to hear any other human story of the same thing.
No, that is interesting.
To the point where I've actually grilled both of my parents, like, are you absolutely sure this is what happened? Like, you weren't like tripping or something, like weird, something crazy happened that day, and you just like were high out of your mind and made up the whole story. Like,
right.
What actually, like, and they're like, yep, that's exactly what happened. But I've yet to read any other stories.
Wow. That is revolutionary.
Like, you were in the paper. I'm like, where is that article? Like, I haven't seen the article. I have never.
That's amazing. I wonder if is the acupuncturist still alive?
I don't know. She probably doesn't even know his name. Like,
oh my gosh.
I know.
I was gonna say try and find him, because that's
a good idea.
I would try and find him. I would want to know all of the questions.
I have a lot of questions.
Just because he was onto something back then, and you know, people are still birthing is so there's so much in birthing, and with it's a lot.
Yes.
So that's
yes.
awesome.
It is awesome. And also, like, so I do know my exact time. I don't think my mom does, but this would be really cool, especially as a mother, to know my kids, because I know their exact birth times, and
Yes,
it'd be so fascinating. Even my oldest son, there's a lot of sevens in his birth date, and like, so I'm like, oh, I want to understand more about that. Do you know a lot about, this is like such a tangent, you guys, sorry if you're still listening, and I'm like, just breaking out.
You're still here.
Does numerology play into
not really?
Okay.
I know about numerology, but not actually. My reflector friend, you can find her on Instagram. It's the Lucky Sage. She's a numerologist and a doula, and she's a reflector. So she knows a lot about numerology, but same thing. I have a theme of 5s for me.
I do too.
Okay, yeah. So
my phone number, my birth number, yeah. You have 5s?
My life path is a 5.
Okay.
So I have 3 5s in my numerology. So my life path, my soul number, my expression number. And then I'm a 3-5 in, you know, human design, and then I'm an Enneagram 5.
Wow.
So I have a lot of 5s going on.
Wow. I have a lot of 8s and 5s and 3s, and also in my phone number, and also just like life stuff too. But this is fascinating, you guys. We're opening up a lot of cans of worms right now. And I know that this is maybe for some people new, and for some people it's not new at all. Right. And so we would really love, you know, if you want to hear more, I would love to have you back, Aycee.
Yes, I would love to come back.
We could go super deep on like 1 or 2 or whatever, or even specific charts, because I know, like, you've mentioned a few celebrity charts that are really fascinating. I remember on your live you mentioned that some people had Michael Jackson's birth time wrong.
Right. So not some, majority.
Okay.
Majority, because they have Michael Jackson listed as a reflector, but I've searched several different birth time like sources, and people have his birth. And so I was like, well, how do they put him as a reflector? So when I was putting in the numbers, so you have to put in your birth time information in military time. So he was born at 7 something PM, but people put it in as AM because they just put the 7 something, and that labels him as a reflector. But when you do it the opposite way, or it's one or the other, either AM or PM, whatever's the opposite. I can't remember at this point, but he's actually a projector.
Wow.
So that is why your birth time. So because what happens is that in human design, some days are dual aura days. So there's some people, if you were born in the morning on that day, you could be a generator. If you were born at night, you could be a projector. So that's why you're going to try and get it at least within the 2-hour kind of time frame. So if your mom says, you know, oh, you were born at 9:30 something in the morning, at least it's in the morning.
Right.
But not like, oh, I have no idea. You know what I mean? So it's just like, okay, mom, thanks. You know what I mean? Like, I have some friends like you know, her friend, she was like, my mom is horrible. She does not know what time I'm born. She has 2 children. Like, right. Like, that is it. She doesn't know. She says she thinks. I'm like, well, do you have your birth certificates? For some reason, birth certificates stopped putting them on in certain places.
Oh.
Yeah.
Huh. I know my birth certificate does have it on it.
Most people's do, but some people's do not, which is kind of strange. And I just question, like, why are they not putting your birth time on? I've had people go and look, and they're like, my birth time is not on here.
Oh.
And I'm just like, how come it's not?
Yeah. And especially for people who, you know, may not have contact with their birth parents,
right. People who are adopted, you know, people who are estranged. So that kind of, it's hard for them, you know. So I always tell them, if you do have any family members, if you can ask a grandparent or aunt who might know, that would be even helpful, especially if it's in the daytime or the nighttime. That's probably the most important. for
Yeah.
accuracy if you really don't know.
Yes. So let's direct people to how they can work with you, how they can find you. Um, and certainly if you guys want to go deeper, like I could go all day. So Aycee, where can people find you and how can they work with you?
Well, they can find me on Instagram at Aycee Brown. I also have a YouTube channel. It's slowly trickling in. It's only 2 videos there right now, guys, but there will be more. And they can just search on YouTube Aycee Brown. And then I have a podcast, which is called Is My Aura on Straight? And you can get that anywhere podcasts are, wherever you listen to podcasts. And then you can go to my website at www.ayceebrown.com and you can book a reading. I offer coaching, all of that stuff. And you can, if you want to work with me, if you want to invite me to speak or be on your podcast or do any workshops or corporate training or speaking engagements, just reach out to me.
Love it.
Simple.
Love it. Thank you so much. And I also was giggling when you were saying that, invitations. I'm like, I've known you for 5 minutes and I'm like, oh, do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do this?
Invitations are super important. Word of mouth is super important. Recognition is super, they're all very, very important for the projector journey. So if you like me and you want to tell the world and shout from the rooftops, do that, because that's how it works over here for me. That's the best thing for me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Aycee. You are just so wise in all the ways. And I mean, I personally want to learn more about your childhood and your grandmother and because there's so many people who listen to my podcast who are like just understanding your psychic gifts, or like you who had it for so long and kind of had to work through that. So I feel like that's a whole nother episode.
That's a whole nother episode. Cause
yeah.
Everyone has gifts. And I always tell people, you don't have to hang up a sign that says I'm a psychic. You can use them in different ways. And that's what I show people how to do. And so you don't have to hang up a sign and say, oh, I'm a psychic. That's just my path. This is just what I've been called to do, and using it in, and I use it in other ways as well. So you don't have to just be like, oh, I'm psychic, I'm going to give readings now. You don't have to do that. That's not required. There's so many other things you can do.
Just because you can doesn't mean you need to.
Right. Exactly.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much. You guys go find Aycee Brown. Check her out on Instagram. Make sure you tag Aycee and me in your Instagram stories when you're listening. Let us know what you loved about the episode. And we'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much.